Most species get weaker as they age, Viltrumites get stronger. And the mechanism behind that isn't just alien physiology. It's one of the most unsettling biological designs in all of comics. And it has one very specific flaw that almost nobody talks about. We're going to break down exactly how Viltrumite biology works, not the surface level stuff, the actual mechanics, why they don't decay, why combat literally upgrades them at the cellular level, and why after hundreds of thousands of years, Thragg isn't just the strongest Viltrumite alive, he's the most dangerous thing in the known universe, and his age is a massive part of why. Every cell in your body has one job: keep you alive long enough to reproduce. That's it. Evolution doesn't care about you past that window, which is why humans peak physically around 25 and then spend the next 60 years slowly losing what they built. Viltrumite cells don't work that way. Their biology runs on what's been called smart atoms, matter that doesn't just exist inside their bodies. It responds, it stores energy, it reroutes it, it reads the environment and adjusts in real time. We see this constantly in the comics. Omni-Man and Invincible operating in deep space, no oxygen, no pressure, temperature near absolute zero, and they're fine. They fight inside a star, and they don't just survive it, they keep throwing punches inside it. The smart atoms aren't passively protecting them, they're processing that energy, cataloging the threat, filing it. Think of it less like a body and more like a living database that never stops updating. For humans, every injury is damage. Scar tissue forms, function decreases, the body patches things back to baseline and moves on. For a Viltrumite, damage is data. Their cells don't just heal, they heal better than before, because now they know exactly what nearly killed them. This is why age is a multiplier for Viltrumites, not a ceiling. Here's where it gets genuinely disturbing. Viltrumite DNA doesn't just repair itself, it aggressively self-modifies in response to external stress. Their cells don't wait for generational evolution. It happens inside a single body, over a single lifetime. The clearest example in the comics is Mark after his first fight with Conquest. That fight broke him. Conquest is one of the oldest active Viltrumites alive. Centuries of combat, centuries of damage absorbed and processed into raw power. He nearly killed Mark twice, and Mark still walked away. Then something happened. Mark got significantly stronger. Not because he trained harder, not because he followed some regimen. His body had been pushed past a threshold it had never reached before, and it responded by rebuilding beyond that threshold. The smart atoms cataloged Conquest's force, his speed, the exact pressure points where Mark's structure was failing, and then they compensated for all of it. This is reactive adaptation. The harder a Viltrumite is hit, the more their biology has to work with. And this creates a horrifying loop. The only beings capable of hurting a Viltrumite badly enough to trigger adaptation are beings of comparable strength, which means every fight with a worthy opponent doesn't just test them, it upgrades them. They aren't warriors who train to survive, they're organisms that evolve through surviving. The ancient Viltrumite civil war, where they spent generations killing off their own weakest members, wasn't just ideology. It was a forced evolutionary pressure cooker. The survivors didn't just win, they were restructured by winning. Every generation of that war produced Viltrumites whose baseline was higher than the last, because only the ones who could absorb the most damage and keep going were left standing. Now put two Viltrumites side by side and look at what centuries of compounding adaptation actually produces. Nolan Grayson, over 2,000 years old, a former planetary conqueror, one of the strongest Viltrumites alive by any reasonable measure. The man held his own against the Grand Regent himself. Thragg, hundreds of thousands of years older than Nolan, present during the Great Purge, not just born to fight, designed to fight, genetically engineered from birth to be the peak of what Viltrumite evolution could produce. The gap between them isn't talent, it's accumulated adaptation. Every fight Thragg survived over those extra hundreds of thousands of years was another data point, another threshold crossed, another round of cellular reconstruction past whatever almost killed him. Nolan is extraordinary. Thragg is what happens when you run that same process for orders of magnitude longer, under orders of magnitude more extreme conditions, without ever stopping. And here's the detail that makes it specific. Thragg doesn't look older than Nolan, he looks younger, because Viltrumite aging isn't linear, it decelerates. The older they get, the slower the aging becomes. The body gets more efficient, even the biological cost of existing gets minimized over time. Nolan shows age, Thragg doesn't. Not because Thragg is exceptional even by Viltrumite standards, though he is, but because his body has had so long to optimize itself that the process of aging has been almost entirely compressed out. Which brings us to the one thing the smart atoms cannot fix. For everything Viltrumite biology can do, survive stars, regenerate organs, compound strength across centuries, there is one system it cannot fully protect: the inner ear. The same complex balancing mechanism that gives Viltrumites the ability to fly, the equilibrium system that lets them navigate open space with no external reference point, is extraordinarily vulnerable to high-frequency sound waves. Disrupt it, and a Viltrumite doesn't just lose their balance, they lose orientation entirely. The pain is immediate and catastrophic. At high enough frequencies, it can kill them outright. Now think about why that weakness exists. The smart atoms, the reactive adaptation, the compounding growth, are built around responding to physical force, to impact, to pressure, to heat. Every threat the Viltrumites faced across their entire history was something you could hit. So the biology adapted to being hit, to hitting back harder. Sound isn't a force you can punch. It bypasses the entire system. It doesn't trigger adaptation. It doesn't give the smart atoms anything to catalog and compensate for. It attacks the hardware that the adaptation runs on top of, and the hardware doesn't know how to answer. The Scourge virus worked the same way. It didn't target their muscles or their bones, it attacked their immune response at the genetic layer, the one layer beneath the layer that does the adapting, below the floor of what the smart atoms can reach. Every apex predator has a blind spot shaped exactly like what it never had to survive before. Viltrumites spent hundreds of thousands of years being shaped by physical violence. So the things that can still hurt them are the things that don't speak that language. Sound, infection, anything that slides underneath the system instead of going through it. That's the real science of Viltrumite strength. Not that they're invincible, but that they've been adapting for so long to so many things that the list of what they can't handle has gotten very, very short. Which makes you wonder, what does Mark Grayson still have to survive to close that gap with Thragg? Drop it in the comments. What's the fight that finally changes everything for him? The Grand Regent, Thragg demands your subscription.